All right, Dr. Ben Carson's anti-Muslim comments have sparked outrage in the Muslim community. Despite his controversial remarks on Meet the Press Sunday, Carson refuses to apologize.
I don't care what a person's religious background is, if in fact they believe in our Constitution and our American values, I would support them. I wouldn't advocate for, I hate to say this, I wouldn't advocate for Hillary Clinton to be president. Does that make me anti-woman?
Strong reactions came from all over, including outspoken talk show host Whoopi Goldberg on The View.
The Constitution, Article 6 of the Constitution states no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. Also, keep in mind, Ben Carson, that's what they used to say about black candidates. That's what they said about Shirley Chisholm. She was a woman and she was black, so you know they went to town on her. So I think the person who's running is how you have to look at them. They're religious. That's like saying no Jewish person could be president. Right. I mean, why would you do that?
Fellow presidential campaign candidate Lindsey Graham tweeted to Ben Carson, "Real Ben Carson is not ready to be commander-in-chief. America is an idea not owned by a particular religion." Joining us on the phone from Detroit is Daoud Walid, Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations. He joins us on right now. Also on the panel, Cleo Monago, behavioral expert and CEO of Black Men's Exchange, Danielle Moody Mills, Chief Creative Officer for Polytini, and David Swartlick, Assistant Editor for the Washington Post. And so I want to go right to you, sir. CARE came out and said that they want Ben Carson to quit the race. Why is that?
Well, we strongly believe that Mr. Carson's unfit to be president of the United States of America. And as an American president, they're supposed to represent the entire desires and be a representative of all the American people, irrespective of race, ethnicity, national origin, creed, or gender. And Mr. Carson seems that he has animus against 7 million American citizens who happen to be of the Islamic faith.
And you heard him say that he is not going to drop out of the race. And so what do you make of those comments? And he also made it clear he's not going to apologize.
Well, you know, he's just deflecting, even when he mentioned that he wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. But I doubt very seriously that Dr. Carson would go out and publicly say that he doesn't think that all white women in America are unfit to be president of the United States of America. But he made a blanket statement about 7 million American citizens based upon their religious beliefs. And, you know, he's doing nothing but pandering more to a particular base within the GOP right now. I'm a strong believer that the same people who cheer on Dr. Carson's comments are the same type of people who are in favor of Donald Trump's anti-immigrant sentiments, talking about building a wall on the southern border, the same type of people who criticize Black Lives Matter movement because a couple of police officers have unfortunately been killed by civilians, and then, you know, they want to blame the entire Black Lives Matter movement. It's the same type of people that have the same type of intolerant views that are cheering on Dr. Carson's comments right now.
I want to go to our panel here. David, what do you make of this controversy? I mean, for the Carson camp to certainly boost him even more so among evangelicals, white evangelicals in the Republican Party. His approval numbers are very high among them as well.
Yeah, no, this comment that he made is going to resonate with a small section of the Republican-based voters, but I agree with what Lindsey Graham said, Senator Lindsey Graham said, that this demonstrates his sort of lack of readiness to step into the role as commander-in-chief. Look, in 1790, Roland, George Washington wrote a letter to the Jewish congregation in Newport, Rhode Island, welcoming Jewish people into the American political family. In 1960, John F. Kennedy gave a speech saying why he wanted to be the first first Catholic president of the United States, saying it's not about my religious beliefs, it's about what kind of America I want. So to follow this up with an African-American candidate who has come from where he has come from and come as far as he's come, and the brilliant surgeon that he is, to make these kind of comments suggests to me that it's a problem with his style of leadership.
In fact, his business manager, Armstrong Williams, caused a lot of controversy yesterday on when he made some comments on CNN, and it was trending for a long time. Folks were tweeting it left and right. Here's a glimpse of what he had to say. Come back to that soundbite.
And what we become
here we go.
As a nation. And while you may find that it's totally out of character for a presidential candidate to express these kind of feelings, what I don't think you realize is there are many Americans, if they search their hearts, they believe the same thing. They don't want to believe it, but when they look at the world and look at how Islam has become polluted and what is happening in Europe and in the Middle East and around the world, you have to take time to pause and ask, what is happening to the world? Would we want to see this in America, where people use our freedoms and our rights, and the fact that the freedoms of expression and our freedom of movement, and he used this against us? And so Dr. Carson does this not of dislike, not of disdain for someone, because he loves America so much. He feels that you have to protect America from those that would want to destroy it because of what they believe in.
But isn't that a bad...
Danielle.
But yeah.
Yes, I am kind of, I'm not really that outraged by what Ben Carson said, because Ben Carson is emblematic of what Donald Trump has done. Donald Trump was the leader of the birther movement when he came for President Obama and said that he was not born and said that he was a Muslim. So I don't understand why now we're getting so upset with Ben Carson for being so against the Muslim faith, when all of the I have very little regard for the Republicans and their silence around the president being called a Muslim during Donald Trump's stump speech. They say nothing, but now all of a sudden they want to attack Ben Carson and want to get him kicked out of the race because he's number two. They all have and purport xenophobia in this country against the Muslim faith, and so I don't see how he's any different than anyone else.
The difference is, from my perspective, is that Donald Trump is let me be nice on TV. He's him, but he's not black. He doesn't come from working class black roots like Ben Carson has. And Ben Carson, whose mother came from a single parent family and was raised in a working class situation where there were economic challenges, etc., and he's a black man in this country, he knows that experience. So for him to go from his experience, and he is a brilliant doctor, to the black David Duke is, it's surreal.
Okay, look, can I just add one thing to what Cleo's saying? One thing, again, and to what Danielle's saying. Look, we can have, Dr. Carson talks a lot about not being, quote unquote, politically correct. We can have a discussion about Islamic extremism. We can have a discussion about religion in a presidential campaign. The way he's doing it is not the way to do it. It's painting Muslims with a broad brush.
Daoud, are you going to try to seek a sit-down meeting with Ben Carson?
I've already tweeted at Mr. Carson, and I've also sent communication towards his way, and I'm saying it right now that I would love the opportunity to, if not, discuss some of these issues with Dr. Carson privately, one black Detroiter, another black Detroiter. Then I'll debate him on his turf. I'll go on O'Reilly factor, for that matter, and debate him on this matter. But the reality is Dr. Carson, he knows better. He comes from the city, which is the genesis or the birthplace of Islam as a social expression. He comes from Motown, the birthplace, the Nation of Islam, the birthplace of where Malcolm X first started preaching. I'm sure that he grew up around Muslims, and in fact, because 20 to 30% of African Americans have Muslim ancestry based upon the enslaved Africans that brought here, it's highly likely he has one or two Muslims in his family tree. So Dr. Carson, he knows better, but I still like to sit down and talk with him, if not privately, publicly. And I hope that this invitation through your show, Roland, reaches Dr. Carson.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate that. Daoud Walid, Executive Director of the Council on American-Islamic Relations. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Folks, America's getting ready for the arrival of Pope Francis. He arrives today in Washington, D.C., after he has been in Cuba. During his visit, he'll have a meeting at the White House with President Barack Obama and Congress over the next couple of days. Also, this visit is likely to add to his rock star status. The Pope, of course, has generated tons of attention as a result of his comments on a variety of issues, including climate change. Many Republicans are blasting him. In fact, you got folks over there at Fox News like Brian Kilmeade who's saying, how dare he even come to America? They're saying he should stay out because he has been very critical of the issue of climate change and those people who deny it. Also, he's been challenging conservative Catholics to change their views and also make the church even more welcoming. Joining us right now from Chicago via Skype, the legendary Catholic priest himself, Father George Clements. Father Clements, how you doing?
Oh, Roland, I couldn't be better.
It's always good seeing you. You've been a priest how long?
58 years.
58 years. So
yeah, I'm now 83.
So you served under how many popes?
I have served under 4 popes.
What makes this pope so different and unique to the others you've served under?
The fact that the others didn't really come into my consciousness. I just thought about them as being some old white men over there in Rome who I didn't have any connect with at all. In fact, I really didn't care anything one way or another about popes until John Paul II. And the reason why I felt that way about John Paul II is because he is the one who overruled Cardinal Cody here in Chicago, who had said that I could not adopt. And I was very grateful to him for doing that because I definitely wanted to adopt a child so that I can do as much as I can to bring about homes for homeless children, especially homeless black children around the nation.
And of course, when it came to One Church, One Child, that initiative, frankly, was born out of that particular effort. You have Pope Francis who's coming here, and so many people are saying how he operates. He doesn't like the pomp and circumstance. He also is demanding that the church become more focused on the poor. And of course, the poor was mentioned more than anything else when it comes to the Bible. And so, what do you hope comes out of his visit to America?
Let me preface this statement by saying that I never thought I would live to see the day when we would have a black president. I certainly never knew I would live to see the day when we would have a pope who is solidly behind poor people. And the one title that he has, which is so important to me, is servant of the servants of God. Servus servorum, the servant of the servants. And that's what a pope is supposed to be. He's not supposed to be somebody who lives in palatial splendor and has all kinds of people around him fawning and all that. He's supposed to be exactly what this Pope Francis is, and that is a servant of the servants.
You have many who are suggesting that he is pushing the Catholic Church too far to the left. But based upon everything that I've read, it's not like he's actually changing the Catholic Church's views on many social issues. What he is saying is the responsibility of the church is to be far more open and saying, I don't care who you are welcome into the church, but we're still going to teach the Word of God. We're still going to preach about who Jesus Christ is, as opposed to condemn. It's all about saying, no, you're all welcome, but you're still going to get the Word as it is written.
What he is doing more precisely, Roland, is he is following the lead of his leader, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was not just pushing toward the left, he was on the left, as far on the left as anyone could ever be. And I am just so proud of this Pope that he is telling us what we need to hear, and that is exactly what the Republicans don't want to hear. He is really out here telling us to be involved with the downtrodden. To give you one example of where he, on Holy Thursday, would wash the feet of Muslims and kiss their feet. And how can you express yourself more so that you're on the side of the downtrodden and of humanity?
Are you also pleased that Pope Francis has made it perfectly clear that he is going to clean house in the Vatican? And again, he is royal to many conservatives, but he's made it clear that the church has to operate in a different way to serve the people.
Long overdue. There are so many cardinals and bishops who are just about fit to be tied because they never dreamed that we would have someone like this leading our church. He has already, kicked that bishop in Bavaria out, who was living like a king over there with millions of dollars and all that. That stuff is just simply not congruent with being a Catholic. And I expect to hear much more of that, Roland. And you haven't asked me this, but I got to tell you.
Go ahead.
I really think that black Catholics are going to be shocked when he leaves here, because he is going to make a statement that is going to make all of us extremely proud.
Sounds like you got an inside tip.
Oh, I do, because I talked to God about this. Roland, all the Catholic Church in America has been focusing on Latinos. Fine, good. But then they put us back into the shadows. You don't hear much about black Catholics anymore. I expect this Pope to come out and bring that fact out in front of all Catholics. That is that Catholic, the word itself, means universal, spread all over, meant for all people, and that includes black Catholics.
All right. Father George Clements, always good chatting with you, sir. You take care. You keep giving them hell.
Thank you.
Thanks a bunch, folks. Coming up, we'll have some headlines for you. We'll also talk about all this drama and controversy surrounding Viola Davis, where a soap star, she decided to, let's just say, show her privilege when it came to Viola Davis focusing on race. I can't wait for our panel to break that whole thing down. And also, we'll come back and get their thoughts as well about what Father Clements just had to say and what the visit of this Pope means as well. Turning your social media likes as well as retweets into cash. Tech guru Mario Armstrong will tell you how. It is 18 after the hour. News 1 now on TV1.